Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squad for boxing news and views from around the internet. Leg 2 of the Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua press tour to promote their upcoming fight on December 7th in Saudi Arabia is in the books. This event was in New York, so it's the second of 3 press conferences over 3 days in 3 countries: Saudi Arabia, New York, and finally London. So what I'll do before getting into a few thoughts is get straight into a mini montage of the highlights from the press conference.
Well, what have we got here then? The biggest fight of the year, the rematch.
Don't think Anthony was himself that night, but at the same time, that looks like an excuse, because Andy Ruiz was fantastic on the night, and he is a very, very good fighter. We already knew that, and we know he'll be even better prepared. I took a little bit of flack as well from the loss. I got no problem with that. I'm the head coach. I'm accountable, so I believe, and I wouldn't have said, yeah, we'll do the rematch if I didn't think Anthony could get his titles back and get the win.
You know, we're gonna have more time to prepare this second time around. We're gonna do a better camp. You'll see a better, faster, slimmer, better shape, better everything, Andy Ruiz this second time around. And I will promise the fans, promise the media, the fans, and everyone that you will see a great fight that night.
We didn't have no warm-up fights. I'm not gun shy. I'm looking forward to getting back in at December 7th and reclaiming my belts. Shannon Briggs, can I get a let's go champ? Can I get a let's go champ? Can I get a let's go champ? That's what I'm talking about, let's go champ. Shannon Briggs talks about the times he was down and out, when nobody believed in him. I think everyone in this room has been through certain things where nobody believed in them. And nobody in this room would be here if they gave up. And that's where Let's Go Champ comes into my life right now.
So many doubters in my life that have been telling me I wasn't gonna do nothing just because of my appearance, the way I look. But at least I think I'm a proof where people could say, man, if he did it, I could do it. And they could, as long as you train hard, you dedicate yourself, and you believe what you wanna do. So what I believe in December 7th, the same results is gonna happen. I'm gonna train my ass off. God's in my side, and we're gonna win.
Andy Ruiz Jr. ending that mini montage, and I have to say that I thought this event was slightly livelier than the first event in Saudi Arabia, which was the sort of set-up press conference. There was a lot of talk about Saudi Arabia as the venue, and not justification, but really sort of trying to sort of hammer home why it was there and why it mattered to be in Saudi Arabia, etc. The second event was a bit of a shift in focus, more about the rematch in terms of talking about the fight. And there were a couple of things that sort of resonated with me, and having Shannon Briggs in the building actually did help, because obviously Anthony Joshua spoke about being down and out and having that let's go champ mentality, and the way that he sort of spoke about that, and you heard that in the montage, it did resonate with me, because I think at some point in our lives, you know, most of us have been or felt down and out at some point, and you've had to overcome some sort of adversity to sort of get where you needed to go, or it might have been in your career or personal life or whatever. But the sentiment from Anthony Joshua was something that, you know, certainly did resonate with me, and connected with me much more than that first event in Saudi Arabia, where I just sort of thought, oh, it was a bit ho-hum, and if that was going to be an advert for the fight, it wasn't a great one, that Saudi press conference. This one, a little bit different. You know, sure, it was a little bit dry at times, but there was a little bit more liveliness, and having Shannon Briggs did help, and Anthony Joshua connecting through those comments about overcoming adversity. And Andy Ruiz Jr., you sort of got a flavour of this sort of similar thing with him saying that, you know, he's overcome a lot of things in his life because people doubted what he could do, where he could go in boxing because of the way that he looked. So a very sort of similar vein and sentiment coming through from both boxers. But obviously both are, you know, up for this rematch, and it was another interesting face-to-face. This time you can see her on screen, Andy Ruiz Jr. Wearing a sombrero. This, you know, is going to be a good fight, and I'm hoping that we see a little bit more come through, another sort of layer of the onion peeled off in the third press conference, because it would be good to get a little bit more insight into their mindsets and other bits and pieces. But I guess, you know, we have to sort of keep expectations in check. And just circling back to the Saudi Arabian press conference and linking it to this New York one as well, there were some comments left in that first video that I did because I sort of said it was a dull event and it was a bit dire and not a lot of atmosphere, yada yada yada, all that sort of thing. And there were some comments saying, well, what did you expect? And I guess the short answer to that is more, because when you step back, you look at the purpose of what this press tour is meant to do. It's meant to generate some buzz and some interest for the fight. It's not just, held for the hell of it. There's meant to be a purpose to it. So I thought that first event really sort of missed the mark in terms of, setting the sort of tenor, setting the tone for the press tour, because obviously they wanted to talk about some of the stuff related to Saudi Arabia, but I don't really think it did anything in terms of, generating any hype on buzz for the fight. And the second press conference in New York, yeah, it was a little better, but also it was a little bit, flat at points. Because if you have 3 press conferences, you want to come out of it having achieved something. And what are they achieving from this? You might have sort of recall that sort of Fury and Wilder. They did the 3-country, 3-venue press tour, etc. And that was, maybe it was a bit WWE and that sort of thing, but it did achieve a purpose to some point. It really was almost a little bit over the top in some of the theatrics, but it did actually build some buzz, and there were some good quotes to come out of it. There were some really good moments to come out of it, and I'm just not sure we've sort of had that to the same extent or anywhere close to it with this press tour so far. So, I do wonder, would one press conference have sufficed? It kind of doesn't feel for me that it's quite hit the mark just yet. But what do you make of it? Drop a comment loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.